as the war with Iran seems to be at a stalemate right now, it would be fair to ask some questions about what is really Trump's goal here. And it's hard because the United States, they engage in all these foreign adventures. And the reason they get bogged down in quagmires, Vietnam, uh, Iraq, Nicaragua, Guatemala, is that the United States doesn't articulate their foreign policy goals. So, as Trump is winging it, it's fair to ask if the world economy is going towards a cliff. Is the world economy the Titanic right now, heading towards an iceberg? There's a double blockade. Nothing is getting through the Strait of Hormuz. Not only do the Iranians have a blockade, but the United States has a blockade of the blockade. But they've been moving a lot of military hardware and troops into the region, primarily in military bases in Kuwait and Bahrain. And it looks like they're getting ready for boots on the ground, an all-out ground invasion. That's just the last thing the American people want is another forever war, you know. And I think it's fair to point out that this is a total betrayal of Donald Trump's campaign promises and the whole philosophy of America first and no more forever wars. And, you know, it's rightly been pointed out that this is a war for Israel, but it's also a war for oil. And it's a last ditch attempt to force the world to be on the petrodollar system, because the United States can ignore its profligate ways. And when we have all the ingredients for an economic crisis at home and hyperinflation, mounting debt, trillions of dollars in debt, with no end in sight, spending, not keeping within budgets. If any other country did this, they would be like Zimbabwe or Peru under hyperinflation. The only reason that the dollar is the world's reserve currency still is because of the system of the petrodollar, which requires countries to buy oil in dollars. And we're seeing cracks in this already through the multipolarity, and the United States can't hold it back. Their countries are looking to diversify their currencies, and United Arab Emirates left the OPEC. This is a sign of things to come. And all these actions by Trump only make it worse. For example, Russia and Venezuela would have been very happy to have continued ad infinitum buying and selling oil in dollars, exporting oil in dollars. Venezuela, Iran, and Russia. But the sanctions and tariffs put on Venezuela, on Iran, and on Russia forced them to look for alternatives, and then we punish them for that. The United States has always been the global pirate, but for a long time it masqueraded as the global policeman. So this is there's a brazenness about what Trump is doing, and there's always been, with past presidents in my lifetime, a gap between the policy and the rhetoric. Heck, most of the time the people didn't even know the policy was going on, but they cloaked the military interventions in language of humanitarianism, human rights, international law. And now that pretext is just totally gone with the Trump administration. And it's interesting if you notice, like, the rhetoric from those coming around Donald Trump, like Marco Rubio. He was praising empire. He was even praising the Spanish and the British Empire, and characterizing all the moves in the 20th century by the global South to try to kick off dictatorships. He characterized those as communist. Um, it was a caricature of history, um, and just this very exaggerated, even comic book um, view of history. Marco Rubio's Munich speech. They're all over the place. The Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, is showing maps of how he envisions the world where Canada is part of the United States, Central America and Mexico are part of the United States. They're talking about taking Greenland. One would think that it's just a joke if there weren't these rapid military interventions back to back, Venezuela and now Iran. So we're all wondering what's next. Cuba, Greenland. As somebody who, in my case, I came to political, um, came of age with a protest against the Iraq War, and that's 25 years ago. So like bookends on history. There's a time of reflection, and I think if we're going to be honest with ourselves, we have to ask, well, what did the peace movement get wrong? What was it about the peace movement that ultimately made them fail? Because if they had been successful in really changing the culture, we wouldn't have had this happen. And, all those structures that grew up in the United States, magazines and radio stations and radio programs, with a protest against the Vietnam War. All this kind of the Sierra Club, all these public advocacy groups, Ralph Nader, all these groups pushing for government transparency that were the fruit of the protests against the Vietnam War. They have a lot of power in the United States, but they have not wanted to address the reality of false flag terrorism. And they didn't want anything to do with who done it on September 11th. And that ultimately was the suicide of the left. I'd include the right in that as well, like the whole the Ron Paul revolution and now the children of the Ron Paul revolution. Talk with somebody like Dave Smith or some of these other guys about the reality of what happened on September 11th. They don't want to hear about it. Inside job, false flag attack. And it's important because the demonization of Islam is just milked and milked and milked. And there's been 7 countries that have been overthrown as a result of September 11th. Iran was the last on the list that General Wesley Clark saw. It was told that we were going to take over 7 countries in 5 years. Well, it took them 30 years. Syria went, Iran went. And this polemical discussion about the role of Israel in American politics and the Israel lobby against the backdrop of the plight of the Palestinians and the revelations about Jeffrey Epstein, it's really caused Americans, especially young people, to question the Israel lobby and the role that the Jewish lobby and Jewish business people play in American politics. But this is a conversation that we should have been having 25 years ago. And because the elephant in the room of the narco trafficking and the false flag terrorism and everything that goes along with it, that kind of criminality, because that elephant has never been addressed, everything that's happened afterwards has been distorted and has it's like Max Blumenthal says, it's the management of savagery. And Donald Trump is a result of the terror wars. And the Patriot Act has still never been repealed. And that should tell us a lot. So Trump wants an off-ramp, but he's digging himself in with Iran because there's no way that he can pull off a win. If he sends American troops into Iran and takes one of those islands, Iran will destroy the Gulf state family dictatorships, the Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and that will change the geography of the world and the economy of the world forever. And I don't know if, Trump didn't think that the Strait of Hormuz was going to be closed. Well, now I don't think he's getting good advice. Iran has done everything they said they would do. And the damage that's going to be done to Israel and these other family dictatorships if the United States goes back to war is unimaginable, and the consequences are unimaginable. But maybe Trump and Netanyahu, they don't care. They're fine having the entire Middle East destroyed, because ultimately for Netanyahu, this is a war of his own political survival. And they're suicidal and they're apocalyptic. Donald Trump and the Israeli regime are everything that they say that Iran is. They are the apocalyptic ones. They are the religious fanatics. They are the pirates here. And just fear that the damage that Trump is doing also for the institutions in the United States, which always used international law and international institutions as a tool for their own imperialism, but at least they gave lip service. And now that that is gone, it's truly shocking. It's truly shocking the rhetoric that's coming out of the Trump administration, which sees international law as like a liberal woke plot. They are amateurs, but I'm not sure that it would be better if there was a government of technocrats like the Obama administration or like the George W. Bush administration that just put a happy face on their imperialism. Let's not forget that Obama oversaw regime change in Libya, in Syria. He was involved in wars in other places as well, Sudan, Somalia, and of course the continued Israeli aggression against the Palestinian people in the West Bank and Gaza. But there's a naked imperialism and a brazenness about what Donald Trump is doing, and it's going to take. I fear it's going to take the world to a place that's very dark, but maybe that's necessary in order to have a conversation about politics and geopolitics in a deeper way, and to face our profligate ways. Although, as an American, I don't want to see my country destroyed, but if that's what it takes to bring about multipolarity, then so be it. And I see a lot of parallels with the health circus of 2020, because in the same way that the businesses around the world ignored the reality of the structure that was opening before them, and how every year the international institutions got more and more power. In the same way, these Gulf family dictatorships like Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, because they ignored the essential geopolitical reality around them, with Iran being the logical leader, and they didn't let Iran set the tone for the Middle East. Now they're having to come to terms with their profligate ways. And the Gulf state family dictatorships are going to face their coronavirus moment. They are facing their coronavirus moment when they see that, okay, maybe just making money isn't the most important thing. Maybe we have to care about politics. Because before the health circus, the pandemic, the businesses of the world didn't, for the most part, they didn't care about politics. They ignored the push for freedom. You have to push for freedom when times are good, because once that freedom is taken away, it's too late. And these Gulf state family dictatorships have ignored the plight of the Iranian people under sanctions. They helped Saddam Hussein wage a bloody war and invasion against Iran. And now they must face, and they will face, and they are facing, the consequences of their profligate ways and their extreme selfishness that was making a deal with the devil, letting America put military bases on their lands. So exciting times ahead. Um, what can I say? That's all for now. Um, from the City of Truth. Remember, I don't know you're a listener, so I hear from you. So please leave a comment. Let me know how you stay in touch with the show on YouTube, BitChute, or either my two Facebook accounts or on Rumble. Um, in the meantime, I just want to remind you to keep thinking, stay active, and question more.